Hello everyone, my name is Autumn Marcelette, this is Jamie Finney, this is Megan Metcalf, and this is Emily Schwan.
Okay, so today we focused on the Greek culture. We decided the Greek culture because the many interesting facts, and Greece is very, very beautiful, as we found out and were told by our interviewee.
Today we will be discussing the significant findings in our research paper, how to effectively communicate within the Greek culture, some of the things we found interesting just about the culture, and the event we observed and attended, and the interview. So the first thing that I will talk about today is the location of just the entire country of Greece. Obviously you can see that it is very, that there are a lot of ships. They're known for their naval abilities because they're just surrounded by water. It's located at a crossroads between the east and the west, which makes it a popular hub for trade and tourism. There are actually 2,000 Greek islands altogether, but only 168 are inhabited. As far as the language, the modern Greek language is a descendant of the ancient Greek language, and it is affiliated to the part of the Greek or Hellenic branch of Indo-European. And these are just some Greek signals. You see these a lot with like sororities and fraternities and colleges, so I thought it would be relevant. As far as religion, this is sort of what our whole project is based off of, because we went to a Greek Orthodox church as our event, and the person we interviewed was the priest at that church, so this is kind of important. Most of the traditions and festivals in Greek are actually religious. They don't have a lot of parties and events just to have them. It's usually to celebrate a certain religious thing, and they usually celebrate saints rather than just like their entire religion together. They focus on a saint, like they have a specific day for that saint, they have a festival for that saint. According to Greeka.com, 98% of Greek people are Christian Orthodox. The rest are Muslim, Roman Catholic, and Jewish. This is just some other information that we found interesting about the Greek people. They have a strong focus on socializing and can be loud at times, which is kind of a stereotype, but also it's true because we found that out when we attended our event. Greek men tend to seem more hairy, and this may be because growing out your hair was a sign of power for men in ancient Greece, so I think it just kind of carried through the ages. Reference.com says that in recent studies, it is shown that at least 40% of all adults in Greece smoke on a daily basis. The website also said that this is carried over into the younger people because 1 in 2 teenagers in Greece also smoke.
There were a few things that we found surprising when we visited the church and just in Greek culture in general. One thing is we learned at the end that they're very reluctant to be accepting of people, but they were very accepting of us. They were very open and friendly, which came as a surprise when we found out that they weren't generally that way. Another thing that we found surprising is that Greeks were in the Holocaust. We didn't think that they would be because they're not as close to Germany, but there were some people there who were in internment camps. Another thing is Greek marriage. Most Greeks don't marry outside of their culture. Like they usually marry other Greeks because family, as the next point says, is very close knit. Like they have to be near family and they don't want to move away, and if they married outside of a culture, they might have to. And to effectively communicate with Greek people, you need to understand a few things about them. For the first one would be personal space differences. They don't have personal space, really. They're always constantly touching, they're always in your face, they give hugs and kisses, and just gotta accept that a little bit because if you move away, it is considered unfriendly. Eye contact is also important. If you break eye contact, it can be considered an extreme insult. Conversational interruptions. It's very common in Greek culture for people to interrupt each other while they're speaking. In other cultures, it'd be considered rude, but in that culture, it's considered normal, so just kind of accept that. Facial expressions, they sometimes have different facial expressions that can mean different things than what we might assume mean. So if they make a face, don't automatically assume that it's something that you know, because it'll probably be different. And other things that we do that are considered an extreme insult in some parts of Greece that you might have to watch out for is the thumbs up and waving with your palms open and your fingers extended. The thumbs up could be considered an extreme obscene sexual gesture, and waving is considered an extreme insult. And another thing is the physical touching. Once again, they like to touch. Just gotta accept it.
Before I get into the event, I'm going to talk about the religion. So, the Greek Orthodox Church is no different from the Russian Orthodox, the Ukraine Orthodox. It's the Eastern Orthodox religion. Eastern Orthodox religion is an umbrella religion over everything. The only difference is where it is geographically and what language it will speak at the service. As we noticed in the service, they spoke both Greek and English. So if they would say something in English, they would say something in Greek and vice versa, and that's how the whole service went on. I mean, we weren't really sure what was being said in Greek and what was being said. We weren't really sure what was happening. But a little known fact is that the Eastern Orthodox Church used to be larger than the Catholic Church, but now it is the second largest Christian religion in the world. So the Orthodox Church kind of came to be because at the time, Europe was the world. There was nothing around Europe. They hadn't experienced anything outside of Europe. So everybody was kind of Catholic at that time. And the Greeks, after the Great Divide, the Greece and the surrounding countries were kind of like, well, you know, we haven't really been doing this whole answer to one person kind of thing. So we're going to keep our democracy. And I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's pretty much what happened. They wanted to be a democracy. They wanted everybody to have a say in everything. And Rome and the surrounding countries over there didn't want that. So that's kind of how the Eastern Orthodox came to be. And the mission of the Eastern Orthodox Church is salvation in Jesus Christ. So, like it says, on October 30th, 2016, we attended the St. Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church for the 10 a.m. service. So I'm Lutheran, and I know that when I go to church, I need to show up early in order to get seats. And because there were 4 of us, I wanted to get all 4 of us seats. But when I showed up, that didn't seem to be the case because there was literally nobody in the parking lot. And then I saw them show up, and I was like, well, you know, it's getting close to 10, so we should probably go in now. And so we went in, and when you walk in the doors, in the main doors, you can go up or down. So we weren't really sure what to do. We didn't know if we should go downstairs until the service was ready or if we should go upstairs and interrupt. Because at the time, Father Ellis was blessing the chapel and the congregation and the pews and everything in the church with bells, while the morning prayer was sang/said by a man and a woman. So thankfully we didn't have to stand in like the midway too long. Subdeacon Gary came down and he took down our names. He showed us where we should sit. He pretty much just told us what to expect. He said that we should expect to be invited to fellowship, that we should expect to hear everything in Greek and English, and that we should know that neither one of them have a drop of Greek blood in them, but since they're around it all the time, they knew what was happening. He also told us that we should not participate in communion because the wine was blessed, and we wouldn't be able to accept that. But we could have the bread because the blood was blessed, but in a different way. So, 10 minutes into the service, there was only like a total of 10 people in the whole entire thing. So, including us, including the father, including the people that held the candles, including there was only 10 people everywhere. So, as we noticed people arriving, which they arrived until about 11:20, we noticed that they would kiss, something that we had missed on the way in. So they would kiss an icon and a Bible. And they didn't do it because they had to or because the church required it. They do it because they want to. Because like they said previously, Greek is very affectionate, and they just want to show their love, and that is just a sign of love to God that they kiss the Bible and an icon. However, don't get it confused. They're kissing an icon like a saint, or even the church's name, Saint Constantine and Helen. They don't worship saints or angels or icons because nobody else is worthy of worship except for God. So 40 minutes into the service, Father Ellis finally turned around to address the congregation. He was faced towards the cross the whole time, which was a little bit weird to me because normally whenever I go to church, that's the first thing they do is say, hello, thank you for coming, blah, blah, blah. So another interesting thing was that they only used their voices. They didn't use any music or instruments. They only used their voices to sing, and they sang a lot. And we did a lot of standing. Most of the service was standing. We probably sat a total of 5 minutes through the entire hour and a half that we were there. Like I said before, it was said in English and Greek, and they also did the Nicene Creed in Greek and English. And then they did the Lord's Prayer, which I thought was a little bit different than the way that we do it, because we as a congregation say the whole thing together, but they said the whole thing until they got to, for thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever, amen. Father Ellis said that, and he said it very quickly twice. So finally at 11:30, like I said, after an hour and a half, Father Ellis, he was very traditional the whole time, and he kind of like let down that traditional wall, and he was kind of like down to earth at that point, and he just he went over the announcements, and he actually introduced us to the congregation, and he asked what our majors were, what we were there for, what we were studying, what class was this for, and we kind of talked to the whole congregation at that point. And then after that, we were released for fellowship, and we were very encouraged by not only him, but everybody around us to go down to fellowship. Emily will explain a little bit more about that, but I think she said it best when we were there. Fellowship is like a family reunion, and we were very blessed because we felt like we were at a family reunion. We were welcomed.
This slide is just a picture of the front of the church. It has everything. Some of it's in Greek. Okay, so the part of the event I will be talking about is the fellowship, and this is the actual fellowship hall. It looks like there was probably a wedding there in this picture, but it was like a big gym type thing, and it looked like a good space for like get-togethers and things like that. Like Jamie said, it was like a giant like family reunion pretty much. Like it felt like, you know, everybody in that church was from the same family. They didn't come from different families, but they, you know. And I feel like fellowship at the end of every Sunday service is kind of like a way to recap your week to your friends and family and just kind of come together and regroup before you have to go off to work and school the next week. It's very loud. That stereotype about Greek people is true. It was very loud in there, and there weren't even that many people in there. It was just they're loud, and they talk loud, and they are laughing and joking around and yelling at each other, but in a good, like, fun, playful way. It's really like a party. Everything they do is like a party. There was a gentleman there who was turning 90, so he had a cake, and we got to have some of the cake. But he actually was in a concentration camp during when the Nazis were trying to take over. And yeah, it was really kind of cool. We actually had a lady that came and sat down with us who she said she was from Greek descent, but she didn't like have an accent like the rest of them did. And she talked to us about how it's difficult because her husband is of a different denomination than she is. Like, she's Greek Orthodox, but he's Lutheran, I think. Mm-hmm. And that they would do every other Sunday coming to each other's churches, and she said it's really hard. And she also was the one who told us that when she first started coming to the Greek Orthodox Church in Mansfield, that they were very standoffish, and they kind of like wouldn't talk to her and things like that. But then once she started coming like every week, they realized that she was there to stay and that she actually wanted to be a part of the church. So then they started to accept her more. So it takes time, I guess, to learn or to earn the Greek people's trust. This is just how they are, I guess. We had a good time though. It was really fun.
Okay, so after the cake and the party and the service and everything, we had a personal interview with Father Michael Ellis. And we got to learn a little bit about him. He married Jessica Ellis now, and had 2 children, Alexander and Sophie, and he originally graduated from the State University of New York and then went on to the Christ the Savior Seminary in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and then after that he became the director of the Nazareth camp of children, working with children, and then he became Father Ellis and has been Father Ellis for 7 or so years. So some of the questions that I thought were interesting that we got to ask Father Ellis was the geography of Greece, Greeks and Christmas, because Christmas is coming up, why not ask that question, Greek activities, and the stereotypes of Greek people. So the first one I would like to talk about is we asked him, when you, Father Ellis, visited Greece, what was it like? What did it look like? What was the feeling of the city and everything, the people? And he said that there was ports everywhere. The water was very blue. It was different from any other kind of blue water that you've probably ever seen unless you've been to Greece. There were lots of islands, over 2,000. Europeans, since it was so beautiful, Europeans from all over would actually travel to Greece. So there was a lot of tourists there. And of course with islands you're going to have beautiful beaches and everything. Another question that we asked was, do Greeks have a Christmas tradition like the US or similar? And they do not have it based on the same principle. They focus mainly on religion and their Christmas-like activities than they do actually like Christmas trees, decorating, and the presents, which is a big thing here. Presents and food and meet family, But they usually focus on religion and family time during those times. Another question was, what are some fun activities that Greeks enjoy in their leisure time? And they enjoy dancing, they enjoy going to parties, drinking alcohol, but only a little bit since the religion doesn't really want them to go too far with that. And they love family time. So their parties mainly consist of family members, very close friends, and they're really close-knit people. With that being said, the next question, what is different from the Greek culture compared to other cultures? Like the question before, family is very, very intense compared to other cultures, very close-knit. It is tough for any Greek person to move away from their culture, to move to America, to either get education or marry someone. Another thing, to marry outside of their culture is very tough as well, because they're all the same. They all know how they're going to be. They have their own little nonverbal cues and verbal cues and whatnot. So it's very hard for them to adjust to a new lifestyle. So with that being said, they're typically suspicious of other people from other cultures. However, if they get to know you after a while, you don't seem to do any harm, they're okay with you. Although at the church, they were very, very friendly with us, especially at first not knowing us at all. As a matter of fact, we had quite a few people greet us, and it was really, really, really nice of them. Then we asked about stereotypes, any stereotypes that they had about the Greek people. They're always late, which we experienced that in the church, considering a lot of people were still not in at 10 o'clock, let alone 11:20. And another stereotype is that they're hairy, with the power association there. and then that they're laid back, and some people even call them lazy, but they're not lazy, they're just laid back. They just do things and they enjoy the moment with whatever they're doing, whether it's being with family or if they're just praying or whatever they're doing. They just take their time on that because they enjoy it. Now, another thing that Father Ellis brought up was a common value. I personally have not thought about this too much, but Greeks tend to think, like most other cultures, that their culture, their religion, their language, food, their parties, everything is better than other cultures. And I think that was very, very interesting.
So today we discussed the location, language, and liturgy of the Greek culture, significant findings, how to effectively communicate with them, and surprising facts, the event we attended, and the interview.
Greek culture is one of the many cultures of the world, and they have a very rich history and pride, and we hope we were able to share a little bit of that with you today.
And thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy as much as we enjoyed doing research and enjoying Father Ellis and everyone else at the church. Hope you learned something new.